Hey everybody, it's Cam from the Nerd Book Review. Today I'll be reviewing Superpowers Year 1 by Drew Hayes. Came out back in 2013 and is 814 pages long. There are 4 books in the series that is completed at this point. There's a cool wiki that goes along with it too, so you'll probably see a few more than usual of the pictures of the characters and some of the things we talk about. This book is actually pretty cool. The basic premise of this book is it is a superhero book. Think DC, Marvel, all those kind of things. We have a group of people who had an experimental procedure done on them so that they can control the powers that they were already born with, and they are now in the first year of college. One of the things that I actually really liked about this book, and we'll talk about it a whole lot more in the good, the bad, and my final thoughts part, is that these are the stories of these kids while they're in college. We're not going to deal with any like world-ending, dangerous missions that they'll end up going on. This is mostly going to be a story about 5 college kids as they try to fit in a superhero program. So let's go ahead and break things down just a little bit better. The world building parts that I normally do is going to be pretty easy. Modern day Earth. I guess it's set probably around 2013-ish. The kids have smartphones and all that kind of stuff, so it is a modern book as it's been written. The backstory is that shortly after World War II, a former American fighter pilot went to the government, said he had superpowers. Superpowers were probably a thing for thousands of years, but everyone kept quiet about it until the first person told the government, and now. At this point, we are dealing with kids that are actually in a superhero training program. So just an average person off the street that has superpowers is not allowed to go and do superhero things because there are all kinds of issues. The funny one that's discussed in class at one point is that it's a big insurance liability, right? If just random supers are going around and trying to stop supervillains, then they could cause a whole lot of destruction and damage that insurance companies aren't willing to foot the bill for unless you've already gone through the superhero certification program that the government runs. So I thought that was kind of a funny one that, if we were dealing with a small percentage of the population that had superpowers, then that's something that would be a thing. You would think it would be like natural disasters and stuff. A lot of people have to have a separate natural disaster policy for their insurance that, like flooding and things like that aren't just covered by your normal homeowners. So that's the basic storyline behind all of this, right? The one notable exception to, like, say, DC and Marvel in this case is that there are 2 classifications of people who have superpowers. Who have superpowers. There are people that are called supers. They are people who have superpowers who can control their ability. So if you have laser beams that shoot out of your eyes, for example, you can control when those laser beams get shot out. The other classification of people are called powards. They're people who have superpowers, but they can't control their superpowers on purpose. One example of a character who actually gets brought in to address the class of the superhero people is a guy who every time he sneezes, he teleports somewhere. He doesn't get to control where he teleports or anything like that, but he just does it. That's obviously something that wouldn't be very pleasant. He did say in there that his body naturally it won't take him somewhere dangerous. So there's that thing, right? But it would be a little bit of an issue, especially if you had allergies or something like that, to every time you sneeze, just teleport somewhere. He also, though, does keep a feather with him just in case, right? Helps him get out of a dangerous situation or something like that. But people who are powards are generally looked down upon, and they're kind of hated in some ways, actually. They're hated by supers because, for one thing, it shows just how random and how unlucky they could have been and they're also generally hated by the normal population who can sometimes have things go wrong because of the Powards. One of our main characters is mentioned. I'll talk just a little bit about that more here in a minute when I talk about our main characters. I know I don't generally spend a lot of time on individual characters other than like one or two usually, but in this case, I do want to talk a little bit more about the 5 people that will be sharing a dorm. So let's go ahead and talk about those people then. They were Powards. So they were 5 people who were born with super abilities, but they can't control them. And they're all fairly powerful in their own way. And, it was a real issue in their previous lives. But then a mysterious entity, not exactly a government entity, but a company that owns a whole bunch of stuff throughout the world. They performed a procedure. It's not actually... I imagine it's surgical, but I don't think they actually describe what the procedure was. That first time ever allows these 5 powered kids who are all 18 years old to now be able to control their superpowers. These 5 kids, once that procedure is performed, they get put together in a dorm. They all know that they're Powards, but nobody else knows that that they were Powards before they had this procedure performed on them. And so, that's one of the big tension points is keeping that part a secret because they're worried how people are going to react to them. It's generally thought that, Powards are always going to be Powards. And Powards have been treated pretty poorly by superheroes throughout history. And so they're worried that the government and the college and these people are worried that if suddenly everyone who is a Powered who's been treated poorly throughout their entire life, they might retaliate against supers if suddenly they are able to control their powers, right? And it's important to note that being a super doesn't mean that you're going to be stronger than someone who's a Powered, because whatever the possibilities are, then you are, whatever. It's just totally random, right? Just like in the X-Men or Marvel or anything like that, right? And one thing, it does seem like there's not very many people who have, earth-shattering powers, but there's lots of people who have, no Supermen that we see, at least in this one. But there's people that are more like on the Wolverine level of power is what I would have looked at, super tough, hard to kill, and some special abilities that are very dangerous as well. But it doesn't seem like we're dealing with like earth shattering, like people who could potentially go Thanos level here. So our 5 main characters are Vince, who has actually a pretty powerful ability. He can suck in energy from any source, right? When he's a Powered, it's actually an issue. He lives out in the wilderness a lot because he, at one point at the beginning of the book, he actually has sucked all the power out of the power grid for the Southwest. He can store that power indefinitely, and it seems like an unlimited amount of power, and in different elements. So if he sucks in a fire, then he can, throw out flames. If he sucks in electricity, he shoots out lightning bolts and things like that, right? He is probably what I would call our main character in this book. While certainly everybody gets at least a little bit of page time in this group, he's our person who has the majority of the time. After that, we have a character named Nick. He's kind of a little bit of a mysterious character. His ability is luck. Now, luck is a funny one because it's kind of hard sometimes to decide whether, luck is an awesome ability or not. But I've always thought that if I somehow got sucked into a lit RPG world or something like that, and luck was a trait that you could have, it seems like one that, would be an awesome one. I've actually a couple times built a luck-based class in Fallout or other games, and it does seem to work out all right for you. Then we have Mary, who's a telepath and an empath, so she can both read your mind and pick objects up with her mind, right? She's very, very powerful. She actually went off into the woods on her own and tried to learn to control her powers before, kind of like an extreme training ability that kind of like an extreme training regimen that worked for her, especially now that she can control her powers. So, very, very powerful. Then we have Alice, who her only ability in this book is that she can fly. She's not particularly powerful, but her dad is very, very rich, like the richest man in the world, maybe. He was a super and part of like a super power team and part of a superhero team. And he can actually change like elements into different elements. So like lead to gold, that kind of stuff, right? And so he's very, very powerful, and he manages to get his daughter into this program, even though, she doesn't exactly qualify based off of her power ability level. Then our last one is Herschel. Herschel is a shapeshifter. Now, apparently, shapeshifters is one of the most common classes of supers in this world, according to them talking about it in the university. But where his is a little different is most people will like shapeshift into like another, like a giant lizard is one of them, right? Well, he shapeshifts into another person. So Herschel is kind of a dorky, he's a LARPer, he's out of shape, not exactly smooth with the ladies. He shapeshifts into a character named Roy, who has a southern accent and is basically like an unstoppable machine. He has like super healing abilities. He's very, very strong, kind of like the Wolverine type of a character where he's just kind of a badass. He's a little bit of a womanizer. But anyways, so that's what he shapeshifts into Roy. His mother has just once that ability manifested, now just considers that she has two sons. So like when they do a mother-son weekend at the university, at Lander University, she spends one day with Herschel and one day with Roy. So it's kind of one of those kind of deals, right? All in all, I found it was really fun to get to like have all these different characters. Now I think I've spent enough time, talking about all the characters, the world building, all that stuff. Just the easiest basic premise is that we have these 5 characters who are trying to learn to become superheroes and also keep their past as cowards hidden from the world. Now, going into the good, the bad, and my final thoughts. The bad. This book for me was kind of a tale of two halves. While the first half was perfectly fine, a good 7 for me out of 10, right? I felt like the book took about 400 of the 800 pages to really decide what it wanted to be. It was kind of like Hayes wasn't sure whether he was going to keep this as a mostly PG rated book or was going to have a book that was PG-13 / rated R. Because, right, the whole premise is we have 5 18-year-old kids. They're in a superhero training program. Like part of the whole deal is being like a very grueling, harsh training program where, like they start off with like 80 kids and only like 28 are going to actually make it to year 2. And they're trying to get as many people to quit as possible right off the bat. So like their training, regimen is like 4 hours of intense physical training every single day, and in addition to their normal class load. So we have, a cohort of people who are incredibly physically fit, 18-year-old horny college kids. And for the first half of the book, it's like he was trying to keep it PG. And it was just a perfectly fine book at that point. But then we, carry on to the second half of the book, and we get a little bit more of those college shenanigans in there. And I felt like, to me, like it was a little bit more authentic of a book of what would happen if you had a whole bunch of like incredibly physically fit 18-year-old college kids who are, basically have minimal supervision. I can tell you from my own experience as a college kid, as an 18-year-old, I definitely partook in my fair share of college shenanigans, and I think that an awful lot of people do that. And so I felt like that second half, like the kids attend parties, they get significant others and things like that. I just felt like it felt like a more authentic college experience for that second half of the book. Like it doesn't get to where there's like any sort of graphic, descriptions of sex scenes or anything like that. but like they have like they go rafting at one point and they party and some things happen. Just in general, the characters are doing what 18-year-old characters are going to do. So I found just the second half of the book to be a whole lot better. And that first half, was a little bit on the just too PG side for me. Other than that, I don't really feel like I felt like there was any other thing that was really bad. Into the good, once again, the second half of the book was a whole lot better. But the other thing I really liked about this book was that it was, a story about college kids, discovering themselves a little bit. I think that had we like veered off at some point into where there was a mission where they were trying to save the entire planet, that would have changed it in a way that I wouldn't have liked. I liked that it was, a story about life in college, right? And I listened on audiobook too, which was, it had a great narrator. And I felt like, maybe because of listening to it, we had like a medium. I felt like this was a really good medium for this subject in this book. To be able to listen to it, I feel like this would have made a good, movie as well. And so because of that, I just felt like I just liked that it was limited in like scope and scale, right? We have these kids, they have their insecurities, they have their relationships. I felt like the relationships were done really well. They bond as a group and, they become friends just like you and I did, or in either high school or college, or, after. But I just feel like I thought that it did the college experience really well. It has been 20 years for me now since I graduated from college, but, this definitely brought back memories for me of my college years, and I felt like it did a really good job of that. I just kind of felt like a little bit of nostalgia, obviously, no superpowers, but aside from that, I felt like it just did a good job with that. All in all, getting into my final thoughts, I found this was a pretty darn good book. I think that whole first half where it was trying to stay a little bit too PG is going to take that away from being like the 9 out of 10 kind of level for me. I'm going to give this one an 8 out of 10. I gave it a 4-star on Amazon and Goodreads as well. And I think that, that second half of the book is more like a 9 or a 10 out of 10, but that first half is just a 7 out of 10. So we're going to go ahead and give this one an 8 out of 10. Absolutely recommend it. All right. I apologize if the video looks slightly different. I apparently didn't check the memory card was full. So, finishing up, absolutely enjoyed the book. Like I said, enjoyed the second half a whole lot more than the first half. I will be reading or listening to book 2 here shortly. And if you like a superhero book that's not going to be like on the world-ending scope, then I really found that the college aspect of it I thought was great. And I enjoyed that second half a whole lot more. And I'm hoping that book 2, carries on from that. And look forward to book 2. And like I said, recommend this book if you're looking for a superhero style book that is more of like a slice of life college kid style. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed this. And here coming up not too long, we'll be getting started with the Spiffbo 10 Spiffbox videos, and I'm very excited about that. Thanks.